GMs for Hire.
Welcome back, everybody, to GMs for Hire. My name is Will Polson, alongside with me, Matthew Perry today, and we are here to bring you another video on Are They a Hall of Famer? We did this as our second ever video. Matt and I broke down the career of Yadier Molina, and we decided whether or not we think he should be in the Hall of Fame. If you haven't seen that yet, go ahead. I'll link it up here in the top. But we are here to talk about a pitcher this time. We hit up on a position player, now moving on to the mound. And we're going to talk about Zack Greinke. Zack Greinke's been in the league for quite some time, making his debut in the early 2000s and with the Kansas City Royals. And he's been on a couple of other teams. He's been on the Angels, spent some time with the Brewers, the Dodgers, and now most recently the Houston Astros. Man's had an interesting career, to say the least. He's been all over the place. I mean, he came up and there was talks of him wanting to be a shortstop. There was talks of him never wanting to be in the MLB. He hates the attention. He hates everything about it, about being a good pitcher. But the problem is he's a great pitcher, and that's just what comes with it. Zack Greinke's just an interesting figure. And Matt, I'll turn it over to you. Break down Zack Greinke a little bit, man.
Zack Greinke, obviously, he's had a great career, but what we're going to take care of here is whether or not it's good enough for the Hall. Like you said, spent years with multiple teams. He does have a little bit of an anxiety thing. So like you mentioned, doesn't love the spotlight, but he's in it always. He's grown on a lot of MLB fans, I will say. He used to be one of the guys that people didn't like, but once they got to understand him and everything he goes through just on a daily basis, dealing with media and stuff like that, people love him. And I mean, he's quite the character. There's moments where he's just, I know there's one clip, I will try to get it in here, where he's just like sitting behind the mound, waiting for them to finish raking it. And he's got a couple funny moments, and he's got an eephus, which we don't see every day. And that's always fun to watch, where he can hit 90 on the gun and then he can turn it down to 60. So yeah, he's one of the more interesting players in the league. He's been around for quite some time, getting older for sure. And now I think now would be a good time to kind of evaluate his career and see if he's good enough.
Oh, 100%. I think this year, as of time of recording, I'm pretty sure he's around 37, I want to say. He's coming up, made his debut back in 2004, currently in 2021, so in his 18th season in professional baseball. It's ridiculous how long he's been around. We see it. We don't see many current day players with such long tenure and everything like that. So congratulations to Zack Greinke on the amazing career. But let's just jump into him a little bit. He, like you said, anxiety and everything has especially early on in his career, definitely hindered his career early on. He had spent some ups and downs with minor leagues and everything like that. And he was just not a fan of the spotlight. He talked about, there's a video talking about how he went into the Royals organization saying he wanted to be sent down to single A and try to become a shortstop and make it all the way up. He talked about wanting to not come up to the majors. The Royals tried to call him up whenever he was in AAA, and he asked to stay down in the minors. I mean, Zack Greinke is just one of those interesting guys. And whenever you think about it, you think about players like shortstop Khalil Green, starting pitcher Dontrell Willis. These are all people who have come out and have been very open about dealing with anxiety and everything. But Zack Greinke's been able to get by it, even though he's obviously still dealing with it. I mean, there's a clip out there last year in the COVID season where he would pitch. I think it was in Oakland where he did this. He was pitching in a game, and in between innings, he was just sitting in the stands away from everybody, literally completely away from the team. It's nuts to think that this guy's been in the league 18 years, but he's just he doesn't want to be around anybody. He's just different. So some accolades on Zack Greinke's career. He is a former Cy Young Award winner back in 2009 with the Kansas City Royals, a 6-time Gold Glove winner, a 2-time Silver Slugger back in 2013 and 2019, which is crazy to think about, that he's a 2-time Silver Slugger Award winner, because 10 of his 18 seasons have been in the American League. So, whenever he's only been out there 8 times and he's won the award twice. He's a 6-time All-Star, and then he has been an ERA champion 2 times, back in 2009 during the Cy Young Award year and 2015, leading the MLB in ERA. Some people say it's an old stat, but for me, I like to talk about it. Obviously, I think it's like the easiest way to determine exactly how well a pitcher's doing. You know, people get lost in WAR and everything like that, and Woba Bacon and whatever the hell you want to talk about. But ERA is just the stamp spot of how much you're allowing, and I think it's the easiest way to judge. Yeah, recently he just pitched at the beginning of this season in 2021. That was his 501st career game, and he went 6 scoreless. I'm pretty sure. He's a good arm, man, and he's still 37. He's still doing the thing. He's still a very good pitcher, and so whenever you hear all those accolades, Matt, what do you think off the top of your head?
Well, obviously, just reading down the list, it's a very good resume. A Cy Young will definitely help any Hall of Fame talks, and he's played for some great teams, and he's been an ace at times. He's pretty reliable. We've seen that throughout his career. I do value ERA as well. I do think that's an important stat, and it doesn't have to be analytical to show how good a player is. Even his wins and losses, which I know definitely people don't value as much as they used to. He has a good win-loss record. His WAR is nice, which I guess is more analytical. I looking at the accolades, it's tough because plenty of Hall of Famers have Cy Young awards and Gold Gloves. I don't think the Silver Slugger should matter since he's a pitcher, but if it proves anything about his versatility, that's cool. It's just interesting going with awards because they're voted on a lot of times. Besides the ERA titles he has 2 of them. But All-Star games, Cy Young, Gold Glove, those are all votes. So it'll be interesting to see, taking a look at some other players who aren't Hall of Famers who might have similar resumes to that. But I mean, it's impressive, but is it enough is the real question.
Yeah, and that was the question quite a bit whenever we were talking about, Yadier Molina in the second episode ever on GMs for Hire, a 9-time Gold Glove winner, won a Silver Slugger, a 9-time All-Star. This is stuff that's voted upon, and that's where it kind of leaves you vague. But whenever you're looking at the stats, let's jump into the career stats a little bit here for Zack Greinke. 209 wins in his career, to 126 losses, with a 3.36 career ERA, a 1.16 WHIP, reaching 2,693 strikeouts to only 676 walks. You can imagine that if his career goes on another year after this season and another, you got to imagine he's going to eclipse 3,000 strikeouts. Only 307 away. That should be pretty serviceable for 2 seasons out of a solid pitcher. And then a 72.1 WAR, which is phenomenal. I mean, the guy, it's good stuff. Obviously, you're not getting up there with Trout and everything like that. I mean, but Trout's up there and has played way less time, completely different position as well. So, WAR, whatever you want to talk about it, we had this conversation a little bit with WAR in the Yachty video, talking about how there was a catcher with less WAR than Yachty who was in the Hall of Fame, but the next guy above him at the catcher position with more WAR, I want to say Benito Santiago, was not in the Hall of Fame. So it's weird whenever you get into that. Do you have a player comparison? Were you able to find one, or do you or maybe just, if you don't, just take me a little bit through the stats and everything that kind of sneaks out to you?
So a lot of what I'm looking at is on baseballreference.com. It's obviously a great website for things like this. And they have similarity scores, which I know your comparison, which you'll mention, I'm sure, it's Justin Verlander. I'll just say it, and he ranks atop this similarity list in scores. But then I look at most similar by ages, and I find this part very interesting because his last about 6-7 years. This age 36, he's compared to Mike Mussina, who is a Hall of Famer. And then you have Verlander. He's compared to Verlander most the last 4 years. And we can all, I think, agree that Justin Verlander will be a Hall of Famer. And then you have Brett Saberhagen, who isn't a Hall of Famer, but
could make the case.
That could be a video we could do. 2-time Cy Young, 3-time All-Star. He had a Gold Glove. He won a World Series, and he won an ERA title. So a couple similar accolades to Greinke. I think Greinke did it a little better. So there's that. And then you have Madison Bumgarner, age 30, who fell off a bit. But if you remember Madison Bumgarner back then, I mean, he was oh, actually, no, never mind. He's only 31. Younger Madison Bumgarner was towards the top of the game. So there's some good names here on this list, and then the similarity list. A couple different Hall of Famers: Roy Halladay, Justin Verlander will be, as mentioned, and then a couple quality guys: Kurt Schilling, who may or may not make it in this final year. He wants to be off the ballot, but that's not his vote. So he will most likely be on the ballot. I don't know how he will do voting wise after his little outburst this past year. Then you got David Cohn, Dwight Gooden, John Lester, solid names, but they're not Hall of Famers, and I don't think they reach that quality, especially now these days, because Cooperstown is harder than ever to get into. We see years like this past one where no one got in, so it takes a lot these days to get in. But there are a couple similar guys. We'll cook up a graphic for one of the guys. I don't know who I'll decide yet, but we'll get there. Probably Saberhagen.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Whenever there's another guy on there who is actually currently on the 2021 ballot. His first year was this year, and I know it was Tim Hudson.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, Tim Hudson's second on that list.
Tim Hudson barely got enough percentage to even stay on the ballot after round one. I want to say he was like 5.5, something like that. Like, I want to say he was literally like 2 or 3 votes just good enough to stay on the ballot. And that's concerning when Baseball Reference says that's the second most comparable player to you. Granted, there is a Hall of Famer on there and Roy Halladay in that list. They give you 10 players that they're really close to. And so, when you think about that, sure, it can be a little bit concerning, but like you said, whenever I saw it, Justin Verlander and him have very similar numbers. Actually, and you'll see this graphic right here. Justin Verlander does have less games, about 50 less games than our man of the hour, Zack Greinke, at 454. All of his games are starts, but Zack Greinke's pitched in 501 games, but only 460 have been starts. So it's kind of comparable when you look at it like that. Only a difference of 6 starts between the two. Since Greinke saw some bullpen action after struggling a lot in his early years with anxiety and everything such as that. Greinke with 209 wins, Verlander with 226. Greinke with 126 losses, Verley with 129. So only a difference of 3. Their ERAs are right there, a 3.36 and a 3.33. Their whips are right there, 1.15 and a 1.13. It's kind of nuts to look at, honestly. Their WARs are very similar, 72-1 to 71-8. And whenever you think of Justin Verlander, I think we can almost guarantee he's going to be in the Hall. I don't think there's a question. At least, and from my perspective, I would not even doubt putting Justin Verlander in the Hall. I think he would get a vote right away. But Matt, I'll turn it over to you. Obviously, these numbers are very comparable, and Justin Verlander, when it comes to awards and everything like that, and I know you said that you don't like to consider that, and that's what kind of sucks, but Verlander does have the more decorated career whenever you look at it from an accolade standpoint. So, what's the cutoff? If the numbers are so similar here with Verlander, like what's the pushback?
It's really tough to say because I don't have any doubts about Verlander, as we've mentioned, and I don't think you have any either. But yeah, like you said, the accolades are quite different. Verlander has an MVP that Greinke doesn't have. He has a World Series title, 2017, that Greinke does not have. He's got the ERA title that Greinke has, 2-time Cy Young compared to 1. Verlander also had the pitching triple crown, which we don't see every season. We saw last season, but that's another story. 8-time All-Star Rookie of the Year, which is something Greinke was not. Greinke finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. Yeah, but once again, it's really how you value awards. Like, a lot of time there are some questionable votes and everyone has a different reason. Same goes for the Hall of Fame voting. Derek Jeter was not unanimous. There was that one guy, and sometimes there's just that one guy, and or sometimes there's a lot of guys and it keeps you out of it. But I do think that Greinke can be high on this ballot no matter what. But it's tough. It really is tough. You mentioned the statistics. They are very similar. And Verlander, who's yet to return from surgery he had last year. He should be back sometime towards the end of this year, maybe next year. He's getting up there in age too. He's let me see here. He's 38, so he is actually a little older than Zack Greinke. I think both guys will finish their career around a similar time, though. So they might wind up going onto the ballot together, which would be very interesting because then they're going to be really put at odds because I'm sure they can both fit into a 10 vote ballot. But now these days you have those guys that only fill out, one or two or five check like 5 boxes on the ballot, even though you could maybe make the case for 10 guys on there. So voting has definitely changed. It's not what it used to be. And like I said, it's getting harder. You have to do a lot to get into the Hall of Fame. And I don't know. I really don't know if this is enough. Comparing it to some other Hall of Famers, which I will do soon. I don't know. But I'm gonna check ERAs and stuff, and I'll let you know. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, let's hop into that Roy Halladay. I mean, Roy Halladay just very recently made the Hall of Fame. Not this last class, but the class prior. Well, I guess it was the last class because there wasn't a class in 2021. So whenever you're looking at it, he was on the similarity scores. I'm not sure exactly. I didn't get a chance to look into how close the numbers were between.
I have the numbers for you now if you want them.
Yeah, go ahead. What are we looking at for Roy Halladay?
So Zack Greinke has already passed him in WAR, 72.1. Halladay had 64.2. Halladay played 16 years. Greinke's on, what'd you say, his 18th? Yes, his 18th. So he's going to have more playing time. Wins and losses, Halladay is 203 and 105. Greinke kind of similar, 209 and 126. So just based on playing time, it appears that and then the ERA is 336 for Greinke, 338 for Halladay. So that's very close.
Very comparable.
Yeah, it is a little tight, but the more Greinke plays, which now he's already a couple seasons ahead, he's just going to keep moving past Halladay. I think Zack Greinke is a better pitcher than Roy Halladay, but I hate to mention this. So Roy Halladay unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. In a plane accident. Do you think, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, do you think that his untimely death, impacted voters when placing their ballots?
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I'm sure it did a little bit. It'd be hard to say it didn't. If I'm not mistaken, was that actually his first year of eligibility? Was he a first ballot? I think he was a first ballot.
Let me see.
What year did he retire? What was Halladay's final season?
Halladay's final season was in 2013, and he was inducted in 2019.
Theoretically, 18 would be his first year on the ballot.
Yeah.
And he was inducted when?
19. So second year. I mean, that's still impressive because you have guys like Larry Walker where it took 10 years. So
how many Ks did Halladay in with?
Halladay finished at 2,117, and Greinke's already way past that at 2693. So it's an interesting case. Like, yeah, they're kind of similar, but I don't know. I mean, I love Roy Halladay. I loved Roy Halladay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But looking at this, is he a Hall of Famer? I guess we'd have to compare it to even more Hall of Famers. Halladay did have 2 Cy Youngs. I know he had several no-hitters, perfect games, what have you, and he was the only one besides Don Larson to have a no-hitter or perfect game in the playoffs. So that's very impressive. That's quite the accomplishment. Only him and one other can say that. And then an 8-time All-Star. He was consistent throughout his career. Big workhorse guy, led the league. This is Halladay, by the way, led the league in innings pitched for 4 years. He was pretty consistent when it came to getting innings in. And let me see innings, 27.49 for Halladay and 29.45 for Greinke. So, yeah, I mean, once again, that's more years. Halladay played 16 and Greinke played 18. It's easy to forget how young Greinke started out.
Right. I want to say he was like what is it, like 6th youngest ever? At least in the American League, I think it was. I think I saw that somewhere on Baseball Reference because I know he came out at like 22.
Maybe he was 20 his first year. Yeah.
Sheesh.
So yeah, he was at the
He may have
time
been like the youngest at the time.
in '04. Yeah, 20 is definitely young for that. And that year he finished. Let's see, he finished fourth in Rookie of the Year voting, behind. This is AL Rookie of the Year voting, behind Bobby Crosby, who won it. Shingo Takatsu from the
Yep.
White Sox.
Household.
I'm not familiar with him. And Daniel Cabrera from Baltimore, who
Now,
was a pitcher and who was solid. But
maybe we're doing the wrong Hall of Fame list. I mean, maybe it's Bobby Crosby who's the Hall of Fame.
listen, I mean, some points could be made. I remember him as a Yankee. He was a baseball player. I will tell you that. But yeah, rookie. Any voting in baseball, you gotta take with a grain of salt because it's you don't know how they'll end up, especially Rookie of the Year. But definitely, it's sometimes just strictly opinion based. Zack Greinke obviously is much better than all those people we just mentioned. But let me see who we beat for the Cy Young. Actually, I'm pretty interested in that. So the year was 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Good year for pitching, I would say. He beat a lot of good talent. He beat Felix Hernandez, who we probably will do a video on similar to this.
Definitely have a
He
video.
had quite the career. Justin Verlander, we don't have to do a video on this because I think we came to the consensus. CC Sabathia, who might be close. We might have to do one on that.
Definitely look more into his numbers.
That'd be a good one. And then fifth was Roy Halladay. So
Oh,
he beat some quality guys. He earned that Cy Young for sure. That season he went 16-8, 10.4 WAR, had let me peep that ERA, 2.16 ERA. That is impressive. You definitely, I mean, 09 was a different game than we have now, but that's still very impressive. And he got MVP votes.
hey, it's a different game, but just a couple of years ago, I want to say back in 2015 when he was the ERA champ, he had like a 1.66. He was like filthy that year with the Dodgers, I want to say.
Let me try to find the year.
I know it was 15. I just don't remember the year. I think it was around 1.66.
Yeah, he had a 1.66. How do you do that? He went 19-3.
Yeah, with the Dodgers, he was really good back then.
Holy shit!
And you'd think, whenever you look at his like seasons and everything, what teams that's by far the biggest stage he's played on. I don't know. I'm really shocked because a lot of those guys don't want to go to big time markets. We saw Khalil Green with San Diego. He spent some time with St. Louis, but we saw Dontrelle Willis with mainly the Tigers and the Marlins.
Yeah.
And they're not packing the house. I mean, maybe back then, maybe the Marlins, but not for long. I can tell you that. So it's crazy to think about that he went out to LA and then dominated like he did.
Yeah, and he went 19-3, 1.66 ERA, in 222 and 2/3 innings, and he got second place in NL Cy Young voting. I was shocked to see this, but then I looked, and it was that big year Jake Arrieta had.
No, with the Cubs, yeah.
Where he went 22-6, an ERA of 1.77. So more wins, an ERA only 11 points higher, 0.11 points higher.
Something like that.
We don't do math here. But yeah, so that's probably the closest you can get to Cy Young without winning it. Numbers wise, obviously second
that's
place.
pretty good. 1.66. That's a lock for Cy Young nowadays. I mean, that's crazy to think, but Arrieta did have a good season that year too. But no, I mean it was nuts for me whenever I was looking through his stats to see how low his ERA was, and I was like, you didn't win 19-3, you didn't win Cy Young. I think I remember that year being pretty upset about that because I was 17. I was going into my senior year of high school, and I was like, dude, you just got snubbed. Like, I felt bad for Greinke in that moment. I mean, he didn't care. He probably didn't want it. But, whenever it comes down to it, I mean, 2 Cy Young awards would be a lot easier to fight for you whenever it comes down to it. But, no, that's a phenomenal year, especially in 2015. But whenever I think about, stuff like that, let's go back to another Hall of Famer, comparing him to another Hall of Famer, Mike Mussina. He just recently went into the Hall. Spent time in the 90s and the early 2000s, from 91 to 2008. So spent 18 years in the league as well, which is, pretty comparable. At least you can say that he is in the Hall of Fame, a 5-time All-Star, 6 times for Greinke, 7-time Gold Glove winner, 6 times for Greinke. Whenever you're looking at the Ks, Greinke already has surpassed him, or he's not surpassed him yet, but he's coming up on him. Mussina has 28.13 to 26.93. You're looking at ERA of a 3.68, which Greinke's got that in the bag. A whip of 1.19, which, Greinke edges him out a little bit. But Mussina has pitched over 3,500 innings. I don't remember Zack Greinke's total off the top of my head. Somewhere it's coming up on 3,000, but I can tell you it's not there yet.
29.45.
But also 270 wins for Mike Mussina. And so whenever you look at that, 270 wins to 153 losses, a lot more decisions. So when you think about that, I mean, I guess, but it's interesting because like there is still some things that like, if Greinke stays healthy and finishes out the next couple of seasons, he's going to pass Mussina in Ks. He's just fine. There's bearing an abysmal season, bearing an abysmal ending, he shouldn't go above Mike Mussina in ERA. Like these numbers are pretty comparable whenever you look at it that way too. And so, what exactly do you say? Whenever you're looking at that, if Mike Mussina makes it, you got to give him the nod, right? I mean, this is, and it's a nice little thing to look at because Mussina also is not a former Cy Young Award winner. So, obviously, again, that's an award, it's accolades, it's different, whatever have you. But, that speaks for itself. Whenever somebody awards you as the best pitcher in the game, I mean, it's kind of a big deal. And especially Greinke, I want to say Greinke was really young whenever he won it, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say he was about 25, 26, somewhere in there, which is really impressive to do. So Greinke, I mean, was lights out. And honestly, whenever you compare him to when you look at Halladay, when you look at Mussina, and these are guys who have made it in the Hall recently, you got to think a lot of the voters are going to be similar. And I'd imagine that Greinke's going to find his way in.
Yeah. So I just did a little bit of stat head research, and I looked at career ERA for Hall of Famers who pitched at least 2,000 innings. Okay. I think all of them should have on here. There's 70 pitchers. If Greinke finishes with this 3.36 ERA that he has, which could change next start he has, right. But saying he does, he slots into 58th all time among pitchers. Of would be 71 in the Hall of Fame, but the people he sandwiches, Roy Halladay with 338, and then Phil Niekro with a 335, and those are solid. I mean, Phil Niekro had one hell of a career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are guys on here that obviously are Hall of Famers, but not everyone, looking back, not everyone should be a Hall of Famer. But yeah, there's some guys here with worse ERAs, like you said. Mike Mussina, Red Ruffing had quite the career back. I mean, in like the 20s to the 40s. But a more recent guy, Tom Glavine, Dennis Eckersley, even USF's own Robin Roberts, who pitched back in the day. These are guys that Zack Greinke has better ERAs than. So if you're just basing off ERA, the case could definitely be made. But obviously, there's more to it than ERA.
Can you do a stat head search for strikeouts? I want to see how many of those Hall of Famers are under 3,000 Ks.
I got you.
I don't know how many. I don't know how. I mean, obviously back in the day, and especially with ERA, you're scoring less runs and everything such as that. And pitchers are going for a lot longer as well. Pitchers were throwing 9, 10, 11 innings, going complete games, even into extras. So, I could see where somebody could be in the comment section and kind of try to negate that argument a little bit. And obviously, if you're in the game longer, you're going to have more chances to K people. But, most modern day pitchers are probably going to be towards the back half of those numbers.
I don't know, because looking at this, obviously, okay, so back in the day, I think there were less strikeouts because now, we've came into this narrative where a lot of it's home run or strikeout.
Right.
I do think strikeout rates are up around the league. But right now, if he finishes his career with 26.93, obviously he'll get more, just from his next start. It puts him among Hall of Famers. What do we have here? I believe 17th all time.
In MLB history.
among Hall of Famer. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
probably. Yeah, I'd have to imagine this is MLB history.
Anybody getting more Ks than that's probably in the Hall of Fame. No,
Yeah, but guys that he's sandwiched by, Tom Glavine, who we just mentioned, and Cy Young. So
the
this
award,
this is great company.
the best pitcher.
For Greinke. Yeah, and then you got Mike Mussina right above Cy Young. More than guys like Warren Spahn, Bob Feller, Christy Mathewson. I mean, you can go on and on with this list. Juan Marichal, but I mean, yeah. Some guys aren't strikeout guys, but you play 18 years, you're gonna rack up the Ks. I mean, that's a given. But yeah, he's in good company.
That's true. I didn't even look to see that he's already 21st. He's currently, or no, wait, that's Mike Mussina, my fault. He's currently 25th all time in MLB history in Ks already. Looking at the list, out of the top, what is it? Let's see here. Out of the top 20, the only people who are not in the Hall of Fame so far are Roger Clemens, which, yeah.
He could be.
Yeah, could be. Maybe should be. Well, maybe a video. I don't know.
Maybe.
Kurt Schilling, who could be. CC Sabathia and Justin Verlander, who's not retired yet. And Mickey Lolich, who is a guy from the 60s. Okay. 60s and 70s. He did not, he only, I say only 16 years, but that's quite a lot of time. Yeah. So, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, so that's kind of the group he's among. Currently, he is just surpassed David Cohn, getting ready to surpass Frank 10 who? It's like 10 and a, I don't know who that, I probably butchered the hell out of that. It's TANA. So
sounds about right.
But those are both not Hall of Famers, obviously different things and everything, whatever. But he's getting ready to get up and among some pretty Hall of Fame worthy people, especially in Ks. I mean, once you pass 3,000, you're already your 18th all time in MLB history. Once you pass 3,000, that's where Justin Verlander sits right now. And whenever you get up into that, 3 players, not Hall of Famers. So, and you got to think if he stays healthy, he will surpass that number. And so is it a lock? Is Zack Greinke locked in the Hall of Fame? Can we guarantee Zack Greinke Hall of Famer?
I don't, I was hesitant coming into this, but based on the research we've done and the numbers we've looked at, obviously we only looked at a couple of stats, and those who do have an actual vote on the ballot definitely look at a lot of other things, but he's got a lot of accolades. As much as I don't want to see the Astros win a World Series right now, him getting a World Series would be great for his resume. I think there are a few pitchers currently that deserve one that don't have any. He might be the best pitcher in baseball right now that doesn't have a ring, like that a veteran.
Yeah, it was always Kershaw that was the argument, but now he's got one. So
yeah, and Scherzer got his, Strasburg got his. DeGrom's not in that conversation yet.
Burley's got his. Mad Bum's got plenty.
Yeah. So
when you're looking at veterans, at least
a ring would help, but a Cy Young is definitely good. ERA titles look great. I love ERA. I think that's one of the most important statistics I look at when determining if a pitcher is really good or not, given their amount of innings. I don't know if I want to say a lock because you never really know, but you give him 10 years. Oh, you hit my mic. You give him 10 years. I think he can get in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, whenever I first looked into his stats and whenever you first brought it up to me, this was Matt's idea to go with Zack Greinke. I was like, why are we doing Zack Greinke? Like, isn't he not a chance? And then I took a deeper look and I'm like, wow, I knew he won a Cy Young and I know he's a great hitter for a pitcher and everything, but he's been in the American League a lot and a great Gold Glover and everything such as that. Been plenty of All-Star games, and I was sitting there thinking, like, I knew all that, but I didn't actually know like his stats. And whenever I looked more into it, I was like, oh, okay, and this is why you're bringing up Zack Greinke. Makes sense. But whenever I took a deeper dive into it, I was really sitting there like, okay, yeah, why wouldn't he be? Like I don't. but I feel like I feel like Zack Greinke in modern day is the pitcher version of Yadier Molina in a way, to where a lot of people, like the announcers, will sit there and be like, the future Hall of Famer Zack Greinke, and then everybody at home's like, this guy's not going into the Hall of Fame. Shut up. Like, which is exactly what people do with Yadier Molina, other than Cardinal fans. You know, whenever it comes down to it, speaking as a Cardinal fan myself, I'm the guy who's like, yeah, put Molina in the Hall. And I don't even think we made a concrete decision on that video, but I think we collectively agreed that maybe, like, he has a good case. But whenever I think we're coming to a little bit more of a concrete decision with Zack Greinke, and whenever I hear people, I've watched games before where Greinke's pitching and they're like, future Hall of Famer, and I'm like, oh, get out of here. But no, whenever you look more into it and you start comparing to some recent Hall of Famers, I see where your argument is. And I don't see how, if you're going to put somebody like Mike Mussina in, who, yes, does have a significant amount more of career wins, but he's also, Zack Greinke's probably, if his career stays on track, is going to surpass him in all other categories. Like, I don't see why he wouldn't. And whenever you're looking at the career of Mike Mussina, he has started 536 career games, where Greinke at this point is only at 460. So, I mean, there's a chance for Greinke to pick up some wins here. Obviously, Greinke sitting at 209 and Mike Mussina sitting at 270. So I'm not going to give him that big of a jump. And, but, you could see him getting up into the 220s, the 230s, whatever the case may be. If he can pull out 10 wins a season, over the next 2 seasons, which isn't far-fetched, you're putting him at 229 right now. And so, that's right on the edge of 230 at least. And that's a lot easier of a number to make an argument for, in my opinion.
Yeah, and when you talk about Mike Mussina, he did play for the Yankees for several years, so you're gonna get wins with the Yankees. I feel pretty confident saying that, considering he spent his career with the Yankees and the Orioles, and Greinke had stints with the Royals.
He was on a bad Royals team too.
Yeah, and the Diamondbacks and a little bit of Milwaukee, but I think Milwaukee might have been okay that 1 year. And LA, he was 6-2. He didn't spend that much time there. And then the Dodgers were good, but they weren't what they are now. So, and Houston, his Houston team's good. And he's been winning games there. No, he hasn't. Actually, he only has.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, because you have COVID shortened year. He was 3-3 last year. I forgot it feels like he's been playing for Arizona, for Houston much longer, but he went 8-1 in 2019. Because they traded for him mid-season, right?
If I'm not mistaken, yes.
Yeah, so he didn't have that much time with them, and then 3-3 last year, COVID shortened, and he's off to a 1-0 start now. So he's yet to get those wins with the Astros, but luckily he's on a team now where he can definitely rack up those wins.
Yeah, the Astros traded for him from the Arizona Diamondbacks. That season, he went 18-5, 8-1 with the Astros. Oof. So overall, with his time currently in Houston, he's 12-4. When it comes to decisions, because of the shortened season, he only spent 10 games with them. Only pitched 10 games in 2019. Only has one so far, and then shortened season going 500. But 12-4 so far in Houston. But whenever you look at his time with Kansas City, back in Kansas City, I want to say he had. Let's see if I can find this here.
They were on such a tough team. Like he
was on a terrible team.
his first 2 years, he went 8-11 and 5-17.
That was when he was really struggling with the. He
was really young, and the second year's ERA was 5.80. So, but imagine if you take that year out of the career totals, that ERA is definitely lower than what it shows. I mean, that's the only year he was over 5. Besides that, the next year he went 3.26, but you could see from every year he drops 3.26, 3.69, 3.47, 2.16, where that's the year he won the Cy Young. It climbs up a little bit next year, but you're still at the Royals, and then he's pretty consistent from there.
Yeah, I mean, he had an ERA of 4.03 in the shortened season, but before that, it's been 5 years since an ERA above 3.3. And before that, you have to go back even farther to 2012. So, I mean, the guy's been a dude. Like,
I mean,
guy's
that's
been a
wonderful.
dude on the mound. Like, he's been great. Whenever, the wins and losses, that is kind of the older stat whenever you were looking at it. Obviously, not too long ago, we saw Jacob deGrom win a Cy Young going 10-8 or something like that. Or it was like absurd, his win-loss record, or like 9-8. It was just stupid just because you couldn't get run support. And back then he was on a very bad Royals team. And then whenever he had those struggles in his second year, his age 21 season, they put him in the pen. And so he was working a lot in the pen. I think he had 52 appearances and only 14 of them were starts. Saw a lot of bullpen time. And then, the Royals were at a point where they were like, dude, we need you to start. Like, we are this bad. And I mean, luckily for him, it worked out. I mean, he was able to get past it. Like, there's a really cool video that I watched on him before doing this video. And it's just really interesting to see what he was going through and how he battled it and everything that, like, behind the scenes stuff I had absolutely no idea about. I didn't know that he wanted to be a shortstop. I didn't know all this, but the fact that he stuck with pitching, probably the best career decision of his life.
I found you can call it a Matty stat since it's Pacific. Specific. Interesting. Zack Greinke is one of 5 players with more than 2,500 strikeouts and a better base on balls percentage better than 3.9. And that second stat's a little specific, a little analytical. But the names here are great. Tim, Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer, Pedro Martinez, and Kurt Schilling. So he's in great company when it comes to strikeouts and walks and being able to balance that. I just found that interesting. That just came up on my screen.
That is a very specific stat.
Yeah.
I like that. But it's stuff like that, whenever you are in elite company like that, you do have to consider stuff. Because whenever you're looking at it currently right now in his career, sitting at 2693 Ks, only 676 walks, which is pretty solid. Whenever you're thinking about it from a control standpoint, you're looking at about 8.5 Ks per game or Ks per 9 to about 2 walks per 9. Whenever you're getting 8 Ks to every 2 walks, I mean, I think you're doing pretty good for yourself. Justin Verlander sitting at 3,013 and 851 walks. So, I mean, he's got a significant amount more Ks, but also almost 200 more walks. So, whenever you look at it from there, especially with Greinke being on bad teams, being able to locate, at least for most of his career, not being on the greatest teams, being able to locate like that, it makes you competitive and everything. And I didn't realize just how pinpoint accurate he was whenever you get on the mound.
Yeah, there's a lot with Zack Greinke just because he's not super marketable. Like he's fun and people like him. But he's never been Clayton Kershaw. He's never been Verlander. They don't talk about him like they should. And he really flies under the radar. And we've definitely figured that out here.
So let me give you a hypothetical. Right now we're agreeing that, you and I have come to the consensus that given 10 years, he'll find his way into the Hall of Fame. Let's say he's called it a career a couple years down the line, currently sitting at 2,693 Ks and 209 wins. Let's say that he retires with 3,000 Ks or over 3,000 Ks, 3,000 or more, and 220 wins, at least. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
First, I mean, do we know who would be on that ballot?
Zack Greinke is the name you're looking at.
Well,
let's say in 2 years. Let's say in 2 years he's gone. That's going to probably be. Let's just say that's just a hypothetical. Currently, he's 36?
He's 37.
37. Okay, so 2 more years puts him at 39, going into 40. Let's just say calls it there. So think about some guys on the older end of things that could be retired in 2 years. Maybe Miggy. I think Pujols will probably gone after this season, if I'm not mistaken. I think he announced that, or he should be announcing that.
It was he speculated that.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anything about Miggy, but I'm assuming that he's going to be coming up here soon. So I would say, other than Miguel Cabrera, I couldn't think of maybe Verlander, like you said. Whenever maybe those are probably going to be the three names on that ballot, hypothetically. If you have a vote and you're looking at Zack Greinke with over 3,000 Ks with 220 wins or more, is he first ballot? Are you checking that box?
If I have a vote, yes. I'm checking that ballot first opportunity I have. I'm afraid that the old men and women that run the Cooperstown voting will not, though. Especially if there's another big name on that list, like a Verlander, and he gets totally eclipsed by someone else. I'm really afraid of that. But for me, yes, first ballot, I'm checking that box.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, it would kind of suck getting pinned up against Verlander, because right now, if you give him the same exact kind of, presumption, currently battling injury issues, so it might be tampered a little bit, but let's say he's at 226. Let's just put him at 240 wins. Let's put him at 3,300 strikeouts. I mean, that's, whenever you look at that and compare it to some guy who's got 300 less strikeouts and 20 less wins, I could see where you could compare a little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, whenever you're looking at that close of numbers, I feel like if you're going to go with one, you got to go with the other. I mean, it's to that point. It's not like Verlander would be out here with 3,500 Ks and Greinke would be back here with 2,500 Ks. They're right there. They're in the same thousands. Like they're within just a couple hundred of each other. And ultimately, I don't know if I had a ballot. I don't know how I couldn't put Zack Greinke on there.
Yeah, looking at this stuff, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt.
Maybe he'll get the Vizquel treatment, get like 50% and just work his way up.
And that's fine. I mean, he's got 10 years. As long as he gets in, I'm pretty happy with that.
Does he ever fall off the ballot?
He'll never fall off.
If anything, he'll at least stay all 10 years.
He will socially fall off, though. He will pull a Tom Seaver.
Oh, yeah.
He'll get in. You'll never hear from him again.
If he gets in, he won't even be at his own Hall of Fame induction.
I do. I think he'll pop. I think he pops out and gets the ceremony. But yeah, you're not going to see. He's not pulling up to Old Timers Day, or he's not heading to the broadcast booth. Definitely not that. Yeah.
Gonna go mow some lawns.
Great career, and he'll always be appreciated. But we're not. I feel like he'll settle into his private life after his career.
There you go, folks. Zack Greinke, the interesting case that he is on GMs for Hire, officially stamping him into the GMs for Hire Hall of Fame. You were in amongst some great company, and so welcome to the class of 2021 GMs for Hire Hall of Fame, Zack Greinke. Congratulations. We don't have an award for you, but you don't want it anyway. So
but we'll have a graphic.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, congratulations. Balloons everywhere. It's going to be
first face officially. He's our, what's the term? Inaugural? No, that's like, no. First ever.
Well, we're coming up. I mean, hey, we're coming up on a year here at GMs for Hire. Maybe we have to make a GMs for Hire Hall of Fame. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Based on these videos, we should. These videos can go to plenty other sports. We can definitely, take a look at other guys.
We're going to have a video. Is Reese Horn and Richie Schaefer and a GMs for Hire Hall of Fame?
Oh, well, yeah, they'd be Hall of Famers for other reasons, but
they're in the Hall of Fame. Come on. We're having a whole Hall of Fame class. Maybe a Facebook Live event. Who knows?
If we can get
them all to jump in. I mean, hey, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, every late April, we induct a couple guys or girls, because we've had a couple influence us.
Hey.
And yeah, that actually sounds like a pretty fun idea.
Hey, maybe we're thinking of something here. But until then, Zack Greinke, you've officially been stamped into the inaugural class, the inaugural Hall of Fame class for GMs for Hire. We can promise you that if you're not going to be in the MLB Hall of Fame, you can at least be in this one. We'll put your jersey up in the rafters, and we'll go ahead and move on. But for next time, let us know in the comments what you think. Is Zack Greinke a Hall of Famer? Go ahead and drop that in the comments section. And we want to thank you all again for 250. We finally hit it. Now road to 500. We just got to get there. We're already halfway there. So just keep pushing it. 250 more to go. And we're getting ready to come up on a year too. So we're going to have some videos coming out. I know NFL draft videos are going to be coming, and more videos are going to be coming similar to that. And so if you're not also, we finally did our first Facebook Live event. If you're not on our Facebook page, go ahead and go follow that Facebook page. I'll put a picture of the page right here so you know exactly what it looks like. You can go ahead, go find it. We did a Facebook Live. We're looking to be doing more lives here coming up soon. And we would really love if you watched this video and got this far. We think you would love to be there in the Facebook Live event. Go ahead, throw some comments in there. We can throw it up on the screen. It'll be an awesome time. So until next time, for Matt Perry, for Will Polston, this has been GMs for Hire. Take it easy.